All right, guys. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about fear and like the darkness inside of you. So I had this realization when I was in a meditative session, and something came to me and basically said, this is what was said to me, and then this is what I worked out from that. What was said to me that is the only reason that we understand darkness is because we live in the shadow or experience the shadow of the object that we live on, right? So basically, after working through what I kind of thought this meant was that if you step outside the earth, right, the sun is on 24/7. It's just bright out there, right? The only reason we understand darkness or experience darkness is because for 12 hours out of 24, we're experiencing the shadow of being on the other side of the object that we live on. So then I started thinking about this, and I was like, all right, so outside of this, so darkness is kind of created, right? Otherwise, there's just light, right? It's created because of the shadow. And then I thought, all right, well, if you're in Antarctica and you live in a 24-hour sun cycle, right? How do you get away from that sun? Well, you have to create walls and create rooms and create darkness, right? That's how you escape that light. So trauma, I think, is not much different than this. So trauma is like the walls that we build around the emotional bondage that we have attached to that memory, right? That's trauma. That's why we get triggered. We see something and it triggers that emotional thing that we're holding into that we've built the darkness around, and then there's a lot of fear and everything. So when I think about what's going on inside of me, that's what I think about. I think about this internal darkness that I've created because I believe that there is a light to your soul. Like, you know, people that don't have this darkness are very vibrant, they're very outgoing, they're very enthusiastic. You can feel them kind of change the room when they walk in because of the energy signal that they're kind of giving off. I don't know if you've ever been in a room where somebody walks in and everything changes. Like, I've been in a room where a guy came in and he was not an unexpected guest, but nobody really knew the guy, right? He wasn't a movie star walking in. There was no preconceived notion of who this guy is. We just kind of knew that he was coming in to talk to us and blah, blah, blah. When this guy walked into the room, I can tell you the energy in the room changed. The way he carried himself, the way he talked, the way he did everything was just this energy that you could feel. It was noticeable. He changed the vibe in the room. So that's what I'm talking about. These things that are inside of us, these fears, these things that we try to overcome, this trauma, they're locked inside of us. And let me tell you a trick, a key to this. I learned this from a gentleman named Dr. Joe Dispenza. I had to go outside of my program and kind of look at some other things, and I discovered this guy named Dr. Joe Dispenza. And he has a phrase where he says, a memory detached from emotion is nothing more than wisdom. So what this means is, in the program, a lot of programs really help you with this. So what this does is by facing your fears, you detach the emotion from them, and now you're able to use them as wisdom, right? So in the program, what we do is we come in and we're shameful and we're guilty for all the things we've done. We sit down with somebody else, we talk about it, we write it down, we get it off our chest. Now it becomes wisdom to the next guy that comes into the program. We can actually sit down and talk to him. So our past is now no longer traumatic and emotional. It's become wisdom and education for the next person. So my whole point is you have to tear down those walls. I really believe that the universe, God, your higher power, your consciousness, whatever that is, your higher consciousness, whatever that is trying to give you whatever you want, but you have trauma built around these things that won't allow you to have them because you have a preconceived conception of how you think you should get them or whether you deserve them or not. Or so it's always down here. Somebody said the other day, it's not the universe, it's you inverse, right? So we're our own little world, we're our own little universe. Everything you are not the universe, but everything that's in the universe is in you. So in other words, everything that's inside your cell is the same stuff that's inside the universe. So we're all one, right? So that's getting a little bit spiritual. I don't want to get too far down that path. I just want you guys to recognize the grip that fear can have on you because an emotional bond with it. So if you can detach that emotional bond, then now you can turn that trauma into wisdom and how you can help somebody else with it, help yourself with it. There's all kinds of things you can do with it once it turns into wisdom rather than trauma. So thanks, guys. I hope this helped you. Work on your fears. They're the biggest things that always hold you back in life. When you get sober, or you're thinking about getting sober, all of it is about fear of a new life without alcohol, without drugs, without the food that you eat, without that dependency. So you have to learn to be free of that dependency and find joy in that path rather than, putting... I'll end it. I forgot all about this. I'm going to end on this real quick. Tony Robbins said something. If you ask, a lot of times when you ask a smoker, this is a great example. When you ask a smoker about quitting smoking and stopping smoking, the first thing they think of is all the negatives that are associated with that. Oh man, I can't have a cigarette after eating. I can't have a cigarette in the car. I can't have a cigarette when I'm drinking. I can't have a cigarette in these social environments. So they associate quitting smoking with these negative associations, where if they looked at it and said, all right, well, I'm going to quit smoking. It's going to help my breathing. It's going to help my health. I'm no longer going to have to worry about this. I don't have to spend the money on it. These are all positives of quitting smoking. But what we do is we immediately go to what we're going to miss out on, not what we're gaining, but what we're going to miss out on by quitting that dependency. So that's just fear, because it's a habit. It's something you depend on. That's why it's called a dependency. So once you break that chemical dependency here and make the decision to put those down, then it's all over. I just crumbled up my pack of cigarettes and threw it away. Now, 13 years later, I picked up cigars, but I don't know. There's a rationalization there that I don't inhale them. So it is what it is. Whatever. I figure smoke passes through people's mouths all the time when they're smoking cigarettes. 98% of them don't get mouth cancer, they get lung cancer. So most mouth cancers come from dipping or something like that. So I've rationalized everything to make that work out okay for me, but it is what it is. Anyways, so I just want to tell you guys that. Hope you guys have a great day. I hope you got something out of it. If you did, leave a comment. Let me know what you guys feel about it. Thanks, guys.